Once, nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers, lay the quiet village of Elder Spring. In a small stone cottage covered in ivy lived a radiant girl named Liana. She was 20, with eyes as blue as a summer sky and hair like golden threads spun by morning sunlight. Though her family was poor, their home overflowed with love and laughter. Liana had a gentle spirit and a deep love for stories. Books were her escape, each page a promise of hope, dreams, and distant worlds. She often wandered to the village market just to catch a glimpse of the world beyond. One breezy morning, as she reached for an apple at the market stall, her hand brushed against another. She looked up and met the warm eyes of Adrian, a tall young man with dark curls and a smile that seemed to understand more than he let on. Adrian was the only son of Lord and Lady Whitaker, the wealthiest landowners in Elder Spring. He had studied in the city, but returned to help with his family's estate. Despite his polished manners and fine clothes, there was nothing arrogant about him. He was curious, kind, and lonely. From that day, Liana and Adrian kept meeting, sometimes by chance, sometimes on purpose. They'd walk by the river, share stories under the ancient oak tree, and speak of dreams, hers of becoming a writer, his of making a difference beyond wealth. But as their bond deepened into love, the world around them grew colder. One evening, under the stars, Adrian whispered, "Liana, I love you. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Liana's eyes. "Yes, Adrian, I love you too." But their joy was short-lived. Lady Whitaker was quick to intervene. "She's a peasant, Adrian. She doesn't belong in our world." Lord Whitaker was colder. "If you marry her, we'll disown you. No name, no inheritance, nothing." Adrian stood his ground. "She's more noble than any title. I choose Liana." But Liana had heard it all. That night, she wept in silence. Her love for Adrian was real, but she didn't want to be the cause of his downfall. When Adrian came to see her the next morning, she gently said, "I love you too much to be the reason you lose everything." "No," he pleaded. "Liana, we can fight this together." But Liana shook her head. Sometimes love means letting go. Their goodbye was quiet, broken only by tears and the unspoken ache of love that couldn't be. Years passed. Adrian stayed in Elder Spring for a time, helping his family's estate, but the light in his eyes dimmed. Liana took care of her ailing mother, teaching village children to read and write. She never stopped loving Adrian, but she hid it like a secret folded in her heart. One harsh winter, Liana's father fell seriously ill. Medicines were scarce, and food was scarcer. The doctor's visits became less frequent, and despair crept into the cottage. Then one morning, Adrian arrived at their doorstep. He hadn't forgotten. "I heard," he said simply. "Please let me help." Despite all the time that had passed, Liana's heart trembled. Adrian brought medicine, warm blankets, and enough food for weeks. He didn't ask for thanks. He just stayed quietly caring. Under the candlelight, Liana whispered one night, "Why are you doing this?" Adrian looked at her, his eyes soft. "Because I never stopped loving you. Not even for a moment." But Liana still feared the past. "Your parents." "I don't live for them anymore," Adrian said. "I built a life of my own. I have a small house in the city, not grand, but it's ours if you'll come with me." Tears spilled down Liana's cheeks. "After all this time, are you sure?" Adrian reached for her hand. "I've never been more sure." Their wedding was small, under the old oak tree where they first shared stories. The village gathered, offering blessings and flowers. Even Lord and Lady Whitaker, watching from a distance, remained silent, but for the first time, they didn't stop him. Liana and Adrian moved to the city. Life wasn't perfect. They worked hard, faced struggles, and learned to build a life from the ground up. But they did it together. Years passed. They had 2 children who grew up listening to the story of how their parents' love had once been forbidden. One rainy night, many years later, Liana sat beside Adrian, now older, his hair touched with silver. She took his hand and said, "You saved me more than once, Adrian. But more than that, you waited." He smiled. Some love is worth waiting for. When Adrian passed quietly in his sleep one spring morning, the village mourned. Liana stood tall, her heart broken but proud. She knew their love had been real, tested, bruised, and finally victorious. At his grave, she whispered, "You are my once-in-a-lifetime, and I'll carry you until my last breath." The end. If you felt their love in your heart, please like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who believes in true love. See you in the next story.